Okay, in this video, I've come across a viral video on TikTok about a young man who was a part of an insurance MLM who is $30,000 in credit card debt, about to file bankruptcy, and living out of his car. And this is a really important video to watch, especially if you are thinking about selling life insurance or you're struggling selling life insurance. A lot of the problems in this business stem from the IMO or the agency that you decide to join. And so what I'm going to do is let this play and then react to what he's saying and give you some background and some details as to what he's talking about. So as if anything, to just give you more perspective on making sure you make the right move to work in this business. And if you do, to work with the right agency or the right IMO, because man, it's everything. It makes the difference, because if you choose the wrong one, as we will talk about, there's a lot of scams that go on in this business that rip you off, first and foremost. Let's begin.
I worked for a life insurance IMO the last 2 years, and my life is now completely ruined. I recently got evicted from my apartment. I've been living out of my car for the past 3 months. I am currently in $30,000 worth of credit card debt. I'm going to file for bankruptcy, and I'm only 24 years old. I have proof for everything that I'm saying and going to say. This is purely just a personal story of what I have gone through during the time I've spent working with this life insurance company. I want to emphasize I do not endorse any defamatory comments. This is simply just a personal experience I've had, and I hold the right of freedom of speech.
Yeah, so I'll just tell you guys right now, the particular company he's talking about, I'm like 99.9999% sure, have a history of cease and desist lawfare. This is why you can't find a lot of good reviews for this particular IMO. They go after every single person in this space who is an influencer that has something to say. They aggressively go after everything. I believe, can't tell this is true or not, I think they manipulate some of the reviews that are on, say, like Glassdoor. And so what ends up happening is people like this dude, they come in and they do the research, right? Most people in this generation, as well as mine, do a research online to see more about what's going on. And then they find out, you know, there's really not a lot of bad things. There's a few bad things, but nothing as terrible as this. And the only way you find out about this is these videos where it's very much like, you know, mysterious. Like, we never say the name of the IMO, and there's a reason why. Because again, pretty much every influencer that I've ever talked to in this business has been sued by this particular IMO, and so you can't say anything because they'll outspend you for alleged defamatory contents, alleged, right? So it's all BS, and we wish we could get this message out there further so it could be clear. Well, let's continue.
I make this video for the sole purpose of warning people what could potentially happen to you if you decide to put your trust in people or IMOs that do not have your best interest, but rather their own. Consider this part of your research, which I desperately wish I had done. This is a company that strongly encourages you to buy their leads and sell one specific life insurance carrier above all others, even though it was among the most expensive and made no sense.
Yeah, so a couple of things that he's talking about if you're brand new to this business. So this particular IMO, and this isn't one in particular, this is a lot of them. And this is what I rail on and have really since the beginning of my YouTube days back in 2014 and 15, is there's a big multi-level marketing influence in this business where it's all about recruiting people to recruit. And one of the things that distinguishes what I would call a scam MLM, insurance agency or IMO, is that they don't just make money off of recruiting you and the sales that you make. That's totally normal and respectable. That's how you should earn it, is through the success of your people. But what a lot of these MLMs do is they also turn in the lead generation side of the business into an enormous profit stream. And so this is what he's talking about. This particular IMO, which many of these do, sell cheap leads. He's going to talk about it further. Resell them, make a huge amount of money up front on the sale of leads before the guy even goes out there and attempts to sell anything. And then couple that with selling a very high-priced, overpriced term product, which in the life insurance space, it's competitive. And if you're not selling a competitive product, then you stand the chance of being heavily replaced. Some people do okay selling a higher priced product. It just depends on some variables. But man, a lot of the times it's as easy as somebody comes behind you in 3 months on a sales call, and you can show somebody how they can go from 100,000 in term coverage to 200,000 in term coverage, and they just replace you. It's just business, right? So you got to be very careful of this, and he's going to go through this. But I wanted to kind of set this up versus what we would normally do, like what we do at my company. We sell multiple carriers to shop around to get the best price, because then you do the client well. They have a great policy, and it's not as easily replaceable.
So assuming this was a legit company, I trusted them and did. They seem to be like a very professional, legit company with professional production and advertising and online training, all that. I made sales.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So one thing you got to understand, guys, if you're doing your due diligence, and this is the key, this is why he's doing this, is because he recognizes most people don't do this, is that the business here in the insurance business, life insurance specifically, is very MLM based. People are from this industry. They come into this from the other MLMs that are out there that sell non-insurance products, and they take that kind of strategy of how to create an environment, almost like a cult-like experience where people don't think for themselves, but they get enamored with the money, the lifestyle, the potential, and they throw everything at it, thinking that this is the road to Chabola, right? And the point is, you've got to think through this. You got to do your research, and because things don't always act as they appear, and that is the thing that you have to understand in the business. Perception is not reality. We think that by default, but you have to come into this with an air of skepticism, a healthy level of paranoia, as you look for an agency to join, because it can mean the difference between success and failure.
Consistently, my upline would tell me I'm doing great, shout me out on social media, and send me encouraging texts. But because of trying to pay off the debt I racked up from being what I felt scammed into buying junk leads, I was having such unbearable stress of not being able to pay my bills, going to bed hungry, my hair was falling out, collection calls, receiving mail from my apartment telling me I'm late on rent, and too many nights of laying in bed wishing I could end it all. I'm not over-exaggerating, and I hope my upline is happy with my overrides. I worked this job full-time hours while spending the rest of my waking hours doing DoorDash, and I was making sales almost daily, but for some reason, was I still in this position? I know I'm not the only one that this has happened to. I've talked to a lot of people that have gone through the same situation. I'm not just some flimsy life insurance salesman. I was above average. You'd be impressed hearing me on the phone. Now let's look at some numbers because I know that's what you guys want. So here's the results from my damaging consistency. In April of 2021, I started this business at age 22. Here's my total deposits from the insurance companies. It was $32,833.25 for the first 9 months from multiple carriers, but mostly that one specific carrier I was told to sell before all others, even though it was the most expensive. But overall, not bad, right? I sold a good amount of insurance as a beginner. I actually remember.
So just for some numbers here, because this is an important part of understanding what's going on here. What he's showing here is his revenue. This is not what he's banking after expenses. He's about to get into expenses here. So the business is not based off of what you make, it's based off of what you keep. Certainly revenue has an important characteristic in the outcome, the net income. But in the life insurance space, you're likely going to buy some kind of leads. And so there's an expense, or what we call a cost of doing good, or a cost of goods sold, or whatever, cost of doing business. That's what I was trying to say. And so you have to factor that part into it. And then there's also the other part of this is chargebacks, etc. So there's a lot of math that goes into it. This why the production submitted isn't the only thing that matters. As we say, what you sell, it's not what you sell, it's what money you have left over after you buy the leads and make the sales.
I remember going to a business overview conference in Uncasville, Connecticut, and the spokesperson of said specific life insurance carrier told a room of about 100 people, and I quote, "If you do not sell less first, shame on you." Today I've acquired over $40,000 in total chargebacks with that one specific carrier I was told to sell.
Now this is where it gets a little confusing here. I will just surmise based off of if he's deposited $32,000, then he's charged. It's a little strange here, and I'm not quite catching the math of this, and I've done this for a while. So if you're watching this, let me know what you think in the chat. He's got $40,000 in chargebacks. Okay, so chargebacks are when you make a sale and then the sale doesn't stick because it gets replaced or the client drops it. And now you're in the position of having to pay back that advance commission. So you get a loan where the policy is collateral in life insurance sales. And so we hope, the goal is to please stay on the books for at least 9 months, because that's the value of the advance we get is worth 9 of the 12 months of the full commission for the year. And what he's saying here is he's had $40,000 in chargebacks. Again, I don't know if he's saying he deposited $32,000. But then he's had a total of $40,000 in chargebacks. That means he's had more chargebacks than he has actual deposits. So has every single policy that he sold get replaced, or was it dropped? Is this 32,000 after the $40,000 in chargebacks? And frankly, I would say this again. I've been doing this a long time. When I see these kind of numbers, again, I'm not commenting on this guy's particular situation. This is somebody who's writing. I just wonder how good he is at actually not just writing the business, but making sure it's the right kind and sticking. And maybe that's the argument he's making by pushing these high-priced products. He's gotten replaced a lot, and that has influenced the amount of business that he's lost. But my point is that this is a very higher than average chargeback. You're going to get people to change their mind. And I've even seen, and even with higher priced companies, typically, if you sell it the right way, so there's a whole argument about how you sell it, you know, it just doesn't, something doesn't smell right with this much chargebacks. And I'll say this too. He mentioned, again, I hope his upline is happy with the amount of overrides he made. That's the upline making money. Well, what's going to happen to the upline, and I can tell you this from personal experience, he's going to eat $40,000 because every upline indemnifies essentially the advance commission that the agent made. And this is, again, for you agency builders out there, this is why you don't want to sell, in my opinion, for these one-trick pony companies that are very high priced, because, and then recruit anybody, and I'm not making any judgment particularly on this guy, with a pulse, because you'll have people write a bunch of bad business because they don't know how to sell, and they're just very pushy, and the people cancel it. And all that advance money, if this guy doesn't pay his chargebacks, it's going up to the upline. It's a terrible circumstance, and you can eat a lot of a lot of debt off of one agent like this guy. So moral of the story, this is why we don't recommend agents start recruiting until they actually have success first and they're writing good business, because this is particularly bad with the level of chargebacks that's happened. This is the risk that you can face as an agency owner, but also as an agent too, if you pick the wrong products the right or you sell the wrong way.
So I had $32,833 deposited, but I wrote way more trying to pay off chargebacks.
Okay, so the guy probably had written somewhere in the neighborhood of, I would say, and this is important for context, probably $80,000 to $100,000 in business over the course of it sounds like 8 months, which isn't too bad at all. Maybe about a $15,000 a month production type of agent. But losing half of that business is just terrible. And again, the reality is, part of this can be blamed on the carrier selection you choose for sure. But the things that's hard to see here, again, I'm just playing both sides of the story here. One side is the carrier selection, but also who are we selling? How are we selling? Right? Because if you're too aggressive, if you're too pushy, right? And it's hard to pick that up just by watching this if that was the case. But these are variables you have to consider, right? That can have an influence on who keeps what. So it's usually a combination of issues here. But he's 100% right in the sense that if you push high price, you run the risk of being replaced by another agent that will come behind you and sell something else.
Chargebacks were limited among the other carriers I was contracted with. I'm a broker. Now here's how much money I spent on...
Yeah, and again, he mentioned he's a broker, so that means he has different carriers that are available to him. But again, because the company is so pushy on pushing this one high-priced company, again, I think it's like 50 to 60% of the business goes there. But what the good agents that survive in this company realize is, like, I can't sell this crap. It's going to get replaced. And they hear about people like this guy getting chargebacks and going into debt. So they work with those other carriers instead, which are just easier to sell. In many cases, they're better priced, and the business sticks on the books.
The leads they told me to buy from their CRM lead machine. This was in the year of 2021 on. I was told to purchase instant internet leads from my upline and the company's training videos, 1-month-olds and 3-month-olds. My upline and the company told me to buy these leads with my credit card. And naturally, if a company brings you on and knows what they're doing, I'm going to trust them, right? So I did. I gave this lead company $24,137.88 for their leads in the year of 2021. I spent $7,406.67 and mostly gas as well as other various business expenses because I was doing in-home sales, which shows you how hard I was working. So that means I made a total of $1,288.70 profit for working full-time for 9 months. You can start to see where the credit card debt begins. Mind you, I did not have credit issues prior to starting with this company. I paid my bills barely from doing DoorDash the remaining hours of my days and using my credit cards. Now, before you go crazy in the comments, I was in denial for a long time too. I too would tell myself, I'm gonna figure this out. It's gonna work. Other people are successful here. Just buy more leads, make more dials. For 2 years of wasted time, money, and emotional toll on my mental health. Unfortunately, I have too much grit and hope. I worked hard and invested money. I put in the activity and made sales, but it was never, ever enough. I understand this is a business, but people that bring you on will train you to line their own pockets and could care less about what happens to you.
Just remember here, and this is coming from a guy who recruits agents, right? They do care about that, because right now the guy that he's sitting on 40,000 in chargebacks, and they roll up, then he's going to eat that, and he's going to have a huge expense that he's got to pay out of his pocket, his upline. So I understand his frustration and anger. But the truth is, and this is the problem, is that this kind of mentality of just care not which carrier you write, care not how you sell, or having options, just buy leads, the crappiest that are out there, and just sell, be pushy. If that mindset permeates from the top, then everybody's going to believe it. But then what happens is, again, the smart uplines that go through this realize they can't do that. You got to sell the right way. You have to have to sell the right products. Because you're at risk here. Like, this guy's about to get hit with a huge chargeback debt potentially, and he's not going to be smiling. The upline, at least, everybody loses in this, and that's the point. When you set up an organization, and you're not going to hear this from anybody, right? You're not going to get anybody to tell you this, because they just want to talk about the flash and the hype and the awesomeness of it. And it is a great business, but man, there's so many opportunities to just get screwed. And that's the missing thing that I get. Hopefully this, and I appreciate this gentleman doing this, is providing the other side of this reality if you believe this crap.
Leads were promised to be exclusive, but...
So listen to this. This is really important. This builds on the leads argument that we made earlier. Exclusive leads are those that you own personally, that are usually never resold, and that it depends on the age. He said they were a month old and 3 months old. So listen to this, because this is I think, one of the biggest issues in this business with this particular IMO, and many others too as well, and why this guy suffered so much.
It turned out to be years old, not exclusive, and resold to a dozen people. Basically, every person I got on the phone with told me they get nonstop calls daily. They were deceased. They had sold their house years ago, wrong number, or they already bought insurance. I was only able to sell enough insurance just to stay caught up with chargebacks and break even with my lead spend.
So again, what you guys have to understand here is that the MLMs out there have realized that you are the prospect for monetization to make money off of, as much as selling policies. And the way they do that, and nowadays, is they sell these bogus ass crap leads that really are just data. Like it's some survey type of lead where it's like, win a free iPad if you answer a bunch of questions. Y'all know what I'm talking about. They're all over the place on the internet. And they cost a quarter to develop, right? You can get them real cheap, but then they go resell them for $9, $10, $11 per lead. And they resell them multiple times. So what happens, now think about this, what happens is they buy the lead for 25 cents. They resell it maybe 4 times. That's a $40 realization in revenue for a 25-cent investment. So their actual investment return is $39.75 for one lead, one data lead. And they sell these by the thousands a day. They're making millions upon millions of dollars every single month. And here's the catch: before you actually are even give the opportunity to be successful. So they've turned the business of providing leads into a business model that is literally a cash cow, okay? IMOs all over do this. It's not just this particular company. Tons of them do this. And the point is that if you join an organization that pushes this crap, it's because it's in their best interest, because that is how they make the money. They make, again, what's the moral argument here? This is like crony capitalism, right? They are winning in this business relationship where they're supposed to be your equivalent partner to help you be successful. They are winning before you even have an opportunity to try to win. It's not a win-win scenario. It's a win-lose scenario, right? And they use your ignorance that you don't know anything about this business until you're like this guy and you're out of it and you're totally just in disbelief of how much of a scam it is. They use your ignorance to turn you into a profit source and cycle in and this is why it's a mass recruiting model with these organizations, because they cycle in the people who are hopeful that they're going to have some kind of success in their life, and they don't realize that they are going to be the victim, because the whole presentation, like he said, is professional, it looks good, nobody would distrust anything, but you don't know all the lawfare that's going on behind the scenes, how they monetize these leads, and they end up screwing you. So it's guys, if you see this stuff, I can't name the company because they'll sue me if I just even mention their name. It's crazy. But if you see this stuff, and you probably know what I'm talking about, if you see this stuff, run. Please don't work with these people, because this guy is just one, probably hundreds, if not thousands of agents who have gone through something similar.
Obviously, from the numbers I talked about earlier. What? Am I not allowed to post my real numbers, corporate? If you say that, you're a bunch of hypocrites. Pretty sure you got in some legal trouble for that. I think it's inconsiderate and greedy for someone to hire a 22-year-old impressionable kid into this business, not explaining taxes or being authentic and clear of what may or may not happen. I personally believe there should be a serious crackdown on laws around the sale of leads, because I think vulnerable people are completely taken advantage of. I want to make clear this is my opinion.
Yeah, he's 100% right. I mean, that's the thing, and that's why in this particular IMO goes after young guys, especially young single moms too. I see a lot of this people who aren't necessarily entrepreneurs. They're excited about being entrepreneurs. They want to have success. They see life insurance as a great opportunity, and they show and tell them everything they want to hear. Oh, it's easy. Everybody's a prospect. Everybody can be successful at this. This is what this particular IMO owner says all the time. And then they go into this, and this happens to them, and they're again totally unaware of what's going to happen. And you can't find this kind of content when you do some kind of preliminary examination if what is being said is true. And so people are going to say, hey, there's not a lot of bad stuff about them. Oh, yeah, a few people say it's bad, blah, blah, blah. And then they join, and then a lot of them get screwed. So it's 100% true. You got to be, again, if you're getting involved in the life insurance section, a lead is not a lead is not a lead. Like there are good leads out there that actually people really did request information that aren't resold a number of times and are good quality. But what he's talking about is utter trash, and it has screwed so many good, well-meaning agents out of what I believe is a fantastic opportunity given the right organization to join.
For corporate watching this video, do you even care? It almost feels like this company has no remorse or sympathy whatsoever for bringing on and selling leads to a young, impressionable people like myself. Again, this is my personal opinion, and I'm not stating this to be factual, it's just my personal opinion. My journey continues, but I don't want to make a 20-minute video. I was eventually able to sift through all the lies and stop selling this specific carrier, and I figured out a great system generating my own leads, but at that point, it was just too late.
Yeah, and this is what happens to a lot of agents is they finally figure things out. They realize that who they thought they could trust, they can't. They realize there's this whole systematic environment of basically taking the people out to cull the herd, and then the rinse and repeat in the meat grinder. And then by the time you realize it, you're out of money. You realize there's still opportunity in this business, but you don't have the way to finance your lead system, to make money, and to do it in a way that's duplicatable and scalable, like, which is why you came in. And again, it sucks, man. It sucks, and it's so prevalent. It's a damn shame.
Too deep in the hole, falling for their what I believe to be scams, lead scams, what I believe to be, in my opinion, and selling that company too much. It was just it was a joke. For God's sakes, do loads and loads of research before you accidentally ruin your life like I did.
So my advice to this guy, you're young, you'll be all right. Hang in there. Let your credit cards go to default. You'll be fine. There's life after bankruptcy. Actually, one of the most the common things all millionaires have is they've been bankrupt at one point or close to bankrupt. And I can tell you this, I think his name is Brock. Hey, Brock, let me tell you something, Brock. I got in my business, I worked with a good company, but I screwed up because I made a bunch of dumb mistakes as a young agent when I was 26, 27. And I got away from the fundamentals, had every opportunity to succeed, but it was my fault for the mistakes I made. And I found out too late. And I had like $97 in my bank account. And I had to go to my wife at the time and admit to her that she was right. She never liked the idea of me selling insurance. And I didn't know where the money was going to come from. And I don't know how I did it, but I got back on my feet. I got a full-time job. I got, back square away. And then I realized through this process of reflection that this was a mistake that I caused, right? I'm responsible because, in my case, I didn't do what I was supposed to. I had the luxury of being told. And I went back part-time. I bought leads. But the thing I vowed was, now based on what I know, I'm never going to make this mistake again of getting away from the fundamentals. And I'm going to follow the system as I should. And it took me a couple years, but I paid off my debt. I had like 30, 40,000 not chargebacks, but credit card debt. I had just tons of debt. It was bad, and I paid it all off, and it took time. And all I could say is from one guy that failed the business to another that's extremely frustrated, and I couldn't imagine what you're going through. Hang in there, man. You will get through this. Long term, you'll survive. Don't give up on this business. This business is fantastic. I'm so thankful that I stuck with it versus going somewhere else like the corporate arena, where they do screw you across the board. So long story short, stick with it, man. Don't give up. And for those of you out here watching this, stick with it. Do your due diligence. Brock's 100% right. There are lots of opportunities in this business, but there's a lot of pitfalls. Lots of pitfalls. More pitfalls than opportunities. And if anything that we can take from Brock, it's do your due diligence. Look for an agency to join that has your back. That's not an MLM recruit people to recruit Kool-Aid drinking shop, and that has your best interest in mind. They exist out there. If you'll look, you'll find them. They're not going to be flashy. They're not going to be showing off their stuff. They're going to be concerned about how to help you sell, be successful, and help your people, your prospects, get the most results. So hopefully this video was good, got some learning out of it, and please be careful out there. Do your due diligence. This company, this business is awesome, but you can make the wrong move and it can end you completely.